Hello and welcome to a new episode of Behind the Curtain. This time around, we're talking about a legendary
Yeah.
studio, or I guess to be more exact, studios in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. We're going to do this in two parts. The first is going to take a look at Rick Hall's Fame Studios, and then we're also going to be looking at the Muscle Shoals studio of the Swampers
Right.
in our second part of the episode. So this time around, Rick Hall. Steve, what do we know about him?
Well, he was he almost single-handedly created a kind of recording oasis in northern Alabama with his Fame Studios. He was an incredibly driven individual who was really into poverty. I don't think there's much question about that, and rose through the ranks largely due to his own kind of drive and gumption to become a kind of world famous record producer, and again really put Muscle Shoals on the map. And we're going to get to his story in just a second, but if we could, I think it would be useful because I think Rick Hall's story, Dave, I think his story is very much um, tied to the region. So let's think a little bit about this part of the United States. So here we go. So Muscle Shoals, what's Muscle Shoals? So Muscle Shoals is in northern Alabama, and the map you're looking at here is a map of northern Alabama and in Tennessee. And Muscle Shoals, which you can see here at the bottom of the map, is sits on the Tennessee River. And Muscle Shoals was a small place then when Rick Hall was getting his start in the late 50s, early 60s, and remains a small place, 15, 16, 17,000 people. It's a tiny town. But northern Alabama is an unusual place for a number of reasons. So one of the things to note here is the Tennessee River. The Tennessee River, which flows through northern Alabama, has long had this reputation as kind of the singing waters. There is this sense that music has been, I mean, and people have written at length about this, but music has long been a kind of part of this region. This
Going
is
back to the Native
oh
Americans.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. W.C. Handy, so-called father
Father of the
of
Blues.
blues,
Mhm.
grew up in this a part of Alabama. On and on and on and on it goes, and we'll talk about some of these these points along the way. But I would just point out a couple things here about northern Alabama. So northern Alabama is unusual in that it was a region that was very much transformed by the Tennessee Valley Authority. So it's the TVA is a New Deal program started by Franklin Roosevelt in his first term. It was essentially an effort to dam the rivers of the American South, to limit flooding, and maybe more importantly, to bring electricity, create hydroelectric dams, and bring electricity to a part of the country where electricity was almost non-existent. Certainly was non-existent in rural areas. And so Rick Hall, born in the 30s in 32, he's born in sort of the pre-TVA South. He comes of age, though, as northern Alabama becomes, frankly, much more industrial. And the industry and economic activity of northern Alabama is very much centered on the Tennessee River. There's a point to this. One of the things that's unusual about northern Alabama is that it had also, in addition to music, was also home to the American space program. And so Huntsville, Alabama, which you can see, which is just east of Muscle Shoals, and you can see here, Huntsville became largely at the behest of one senator from Alabama, the Center for American Rocketry. And so during the late 50s and certainly into the 60s and on, America's space program very much relied on the activities that were taking place in Huntsville. One, Werner von Braun and his
And many other Germans.
many other Germans made their way to Huntsville immediately after World War II, which is a very fascinating story, so-called Operation Paperclip, and set up shop there. So northern Alabama, whether it's Huntsville, whether it's Florence, where it's Muscle Shoals, is these are places that were transformed in the 50s, 60s, and into the 70s. I would just point to another thing on the map in terms of the region, and that is, of course, the on the present Nashville, which you can see here. Um, Muscle Shoals is roughly 2.5, 3 hours by vehicle from Nashville. It was maybe longer back in the day. But it was not a out of the way place or an out of the way destination. And so the connections between Nashville and Muscle Shoals are really important. And it's also, I mean, it's a part of Rick Hall's story. And so I thought it was the other thing that happens here, and we'll talk about this along the way, is that Alabama during the 50s and 60s is it's defined by segregation and by a kind of strident segregation. And certainly political leaders like one George Wallace dominate national, if not international, headlines. And so one of the things that's so unusual about Rick Hall and his musical journey is that it was very much tied to African American artists. And Rick Hall's activities in Muscle Shoals were very much against the current that you would see in the state capital of Alabama. And so
Or
some
the
things were happening.
streets of Alabama towns. Jim Crow was
Oh,
alive and well,
this no, this
especially when they started out.
no question, David. So I think this is, I think, really a key point here is that um, there was no more stridently racist part of the United States than Alabama in the 1960s, for example. But yet something a little different was happening in Muscle Shoals. And so I think that provides some regional context. And so let's get to the Rick Hall story, which starts in rural Alabama and is very much tied to agriculture and poverty.
Yeah, and the derogatory term "poor white trash" certainly would have been applied to him and his family as he was growing up. Uh, and
Yeah.
I think that's going to also have something to do with the way this story develops.
Oh, I totally agree, Dave. There's no way to think about Rick Hall without thinking about his upbringing. I mean, he was, yeah,
But his story is one that is just replete with personal tragedy of a level that's difficult to comprehend, I think. Um, this is this his boyhood home?
yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah, this is the
Um,
cabin.
at some point, they added some planks. It was as he was a child, still dirt,
Right.
packed dirt floors. He his family slept on mattresses that were stuffed with straw that they got out from fields. Um, early on, uh, his uh, his younger brother, at the age of 3,
Oh,
um, died in an unfortunate accident. Their
yeah.
mother was boiling some laundry out
Yes.
out on the front lawn, and he was playing. The younger boy was playing with his cousin, and tripped and fell into the scalding water, um,
Yeah.
and died just hours later.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. I mean, and this took a psychic toll on the entire family. It certainly took a psychic toll on his mother. But this is where yeah, I mean, this is the first of many, a string of seemingly almost endless tragedies, personal tragedies starts when Rick Hall's just a kid.
Well, and
Um,
the what you just referred to, the trauma for the mother, resulted in her leaving the family relatively shortly after that.
yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I think it's almost, yeah.
So deserting him, his
Yeah.
father, and his younger sister, and he felt that as being his mother personally deserting him. And
Yeah, and so and I think Dave, not to, and we'll try not hard not to play armchair psychologists here, but There are various points along the way where Rick Hall has real struggles with women. I think it starts again with his mom, and you use the verb desert. I think that's how he perceived it. That he was abandoned essentially. His mother abandoned him and his family.
And he says
I'm
much, much later, there's hardly a day that goes by, even uh, he's talking about this in his
oh
70s. There's hardly a day that
decades
goes
later,
by that
right?
he doesn't think about his mother. So,
Yeah, it is. I think it may be of all the terrible things that happened to him. I mean, he's an unusual figure, and he persevered. But man, when his mom left, this was an enormous gap that was never filled. Never filled.
he actually left Alabama for a while, and
Yeah, and that's something. Yeah.
as a young man, was working in um, uh, Rockford, Illinois, which is near and dear to my heart. We used to go to Rockford all the time when I was living in Dixon.
Home of Cheap Trick as
You
well, right?
bet.
But
Yeah,
yeah, just
absolutely.
down. That's right, just down the road from Dixon. Yeah, so he
Um,
spent a bit of time there, laboring in was it a factory? I believe that's right.
yes, yeah, he was a factory worker. I don't remember what exactly they were making there, but
But it's
um,
yeah.
he
So
held out for a while before he was drafted into the army
yeah,
for the
and
Korean War.
then right, and he's injured, right? There's an accident.
Well,
Uh,
I know that he took the conscientious objector status
well, there's interesting. Yeah, there's well, yeah.
and
There
was placed in an army band.
yes, he was placed in an army band, which was, I think, kind of helped kind of guide his path. There was, though, an automobile accident during his time in the service where he was spent time recuperating. But
Is he
this
just a
is,
really terrible driver, or
I mean, you get the okay. So there's any interview with Rick Hall, and certainly his biography, you get this sense that there is this kind of black cloud that's always hovering over him, always. And yeah, so you can't. He doesn't seem to be able to go through, from a year to the next without something sort of horrific
yeah, you
happening.
can see where that comes from. I mean, especially as we get along a bit further in his story. But all right, the army band, right?
The army band, yeah.
How does he end up in a band? Well, interestingly enough, he grew up in abject poverty. But his uncle gave him a mandolin on his 6th birthday, which uh, is probably worth as much as the entire cabin that they were
Yes. I
living
mean,
in,
right.
right?
It's the only thing of value that he probably owned as a child. Maybe the family owned, right?
So, and that was also almost certainly the only escape that he had from just a life of misery. So I'm sure he spent a lot of time with his mandolin, and
So
he
this
became a multi-instrumentalist, right? I
yeah,
mean,
so this gets to something I wanted to bounce off you. And when you read the accounts of his life, he obviously made his he was he operated in the world of music.
yeah.
And he was a relatively, I think, accomplished musician, and he had a good ear. Um, I'm not certain that anybody, and even himself, would ever thought of him as a kind of gifted musician. There are, yeah, he kind of, I don't know how quite to place it because so many people have this incredible ear and gift for music. Uh, and my sense is that his ear was developed, that his gift was one that was kind of crafted with hard work. Um, and I don't think he ever saw himself. I think he saw himself as a producer first, and a businessman first, and maybe a musician second or third.
Well, in the early days, I think he strove to be a good band member, and I
Fair.
think he
I
probably
think that's fair.
was because he was able to play several instruments at least competently, and so that's he got his start playing in
got
bands.
his start, and it gave him a kind of musical vocabulary that was incredibly useful to him in the music industry when he was running his own production studio.
Right.
He could speak the language of music, and he knew what he wanted and how to get it.
Um, Shortly after returning home from his
Here we
stint in
go.
the war, he married, and a 16-year-old, and his new bride's name was Faye. Um, just 1.5 years after they got
Oh,
married, he and Faye were on the way to some
yeah,
music event,
right.
and he was driving, and apparently a speeding car was coming towards them, and he tried to get out of the way, ended up in the gravel on the shoulder, and the car spun out and flipped several times.
Oh, the
Um,
accounts of this are harrowing.
the long and short of it is that Faye died just 1.5 years into their marriage, which really put him on. Um, well, it was traumatizing, clearly.
I mean, it was, David. I think it's, it was, if he re-traumatizing, I think there's this sense that he's always, and again, there's this gap, right, in his life. There's this hole. And
And
wow.
clearly, his wife had no choice about leaving him. But again, he was
Well,
without
yeah, but
the woman that was central to who he was at the time. His father gave him a bit of advice and said, "This is the sort of thing that will make you or break you. If you can, if you give in to the temptations of alcohol or drugs or whatever." It will break you. But
well,
if you stand up and dust yourself off and keep
there we
on
go.
keeping on, it will make you a man to reckon with. Two
It's an
months
interesting,
later,
yeah.
his father died, and his father died. It's not enough that his father died. His father died in an accident on a John Deere tractor that Rick had bought him.
Bought him. Yeah. It. Oh my God. Yes.
Um, that flipped over on him, and that was all she wrote. So within 2 months, he lost two people who were incredibly important in his life. And then he did go on a bender. He had a long lost weekend following that.
I think that's right.
That was the year 1957.
Yeah. So he's still a young guy, but it's very much up in the air, right? And there's no sense in this after this that Rick Hall would actually sort of come back, would bounce out of this. It would, would be able to sort of right the ship. There was no sense of this
He
whatsoever.
was living in his car. He was eating in his car.
Yes,
It's the only thing that kept him going was that he was trying to still somehow stay involved with music. He was writing songs. Um, he would play in bands,
he would.
and
Yeah,
those two things I think actually led to his resurrection back into life.
I think that's well said. I think that's exactly right. And it's yeah, and he always had this songwriting. He had the songwriting bug from the earliest of years, and it did sustain him.
And wrote some successful songs.
No, he did. No, he absolutely did. He had it right. I mean, I yeah, he's not without an ear. He's not without a sense. He had a sense of what would be popular, what would work, and he trusted his own gut. And he also begins to sort of formulate a kind of plan. He pulls himself out of this
Let's let,
slowly but surely.
let's talk about the songs for just a second. For one thing, he wrote or they wrote "Aching Breaking Heart" by George Jones.
Ah, the possum. Yeah.
"She'll Never Know" by Brenda Lee,
She was a big deal.
and "Sweet and Innocent" Not yet by Donny Osmond, although he will
Oh, give it
produce
time.
that when the time comes. But
Yeah,
here by Roy Orbison. So,
right.
all right.
That away. Sweet and
Well,
innocent. Yeah. It was a bigger hit
Paul,
for Donnie than Roy.
yes, it was.
I mean, I
But
know
it
you knew
wasn't.
that.
But it was a hit for Roy. But it wasn't
It was hit-ish. Yes.
hitish. At that point, he's also playing in a band with one Billy Sherrill.
Yeah,
Why
this is
why is that significant, or why does that become significant?
well, super Cheryl becomes one of the great kind of country music architects in the 60s and into the 70s. Billy Sherrill is, well, one of the people who helps to pull together the so-called countrypolitan sound, but he is in this era, late 50s, early 60s, another guy from Northern Alabama playing in bands, and they strike up a kind of bond um, as bandmates and decide to kind of go into business together, not just the songwriting business, but also then production.
Which which gels when they're approached by one
Yeah,
Tom Stafford, who from Florence, and they decide that they're going to open yeah uh, music publishing, producing, songwriting, blah 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 enterprise, a company that they're going to name Florence, Alabama Music Enterprises, or FAME.
fame. Yeah,
And that goes well for well, about a year
it goes
until,
well for about a year. Yeah. So, how would you describe how it came apart, Dave? Because I think this is another one of those forks in the road for Hall.
yeah, well, it's definitely a fork in the road. Because they said fork you. This is Sherilyn Stafford um, basically came to him and said, "Look, we were thinking this is the sort of thing that we could have some fun with, um, and you're just no fun at all. You're
I
just
mean,
you're
as
just driven."
okay, yes.
And what Hall said about this afterwards is these guys had the idea you can kind of fool around and do some publishing and some producing and be millionaires by the time you're 40. I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 30.
I
So
mean,
you see, they did have some different conceptions about where the
well,
company should go.
so this, yes, yeah, at the very least, I think it's also very much a kind of it's not just a kind of difference of professional vision. It's right that they just didn't care for him. They didn't like hanging with him, and that he grated on them
He graded on it.
eh,
He was too intense.
just too much,
Yeah,
and so they part ways. It's really what's if had they stayed together. I mean, because Billy Sheridan becomes this enormous figure, and maybe Billy Sheridan doesn't become this enormous figure if they stay together and he remains in Northern Alabama. But the studio business is broken in part, and um, Hall is left with the name, right?
right. Cheryl and
The
Stafford say, okay, you can keep the company name. Um, and he essentially, of course, also kind of inherits the um, the session players that they had uh, fostered up
I
until
think
then.
that's a key. That's a key piece of this, right? So, and there are then, despite the fact that it's a very isolated region, there are a number of players, and they have started to gravitate toward the studio and this particular studio. And then once the original fame kind of breaks apart, um, once again, Hall is left with kind of like, well, I got to do something. It's wow, it just never ends with this guy, and so he decides to go
The
into the
original
business for
company
himself.
was over the drugstore of
It
Stafford's
was,
father. So there was a drugstore on the ground level, and the first floor was the studio. Clearly, he couldn't stay there, so he went to an abandoned tobacco
That's right. It was a warehouse kind of thing.
warehouse. Yeah.
Yeah, and cobbled together. Um, Eventually he would build his own studio at a concrete at a concrete block. Um, and it's worth noting that once Hall gets builds the famed studio that still stands today, he does get some assistance from Owen Bradley. Comes down from Nashville to help him sort of set up what that studio, what a studio should look like. So he is
But
very much a self-made
he
man, but
finances that. He finances
he
that
finances it. Yes, right.
with his very first hit.
Bingo.
Arthur
That's exactly right.
Alexander, who was a bellhop at the Sheffield
This is
Hotel,
just
a
unbelievable.
local
Just
hotel
down the street.
down the street, had written a song, and he approached. And, at this point, Hall was the only game in town, so he approached him and said, "I think I've written a song. What do you think of it?" And he played it for him, and Hall said, "Well, I think it's a hit."
Yeah.
And Alexander said, "Well, what are we going to do about it?" "Well, we're going to record it." When? Tomorrow. And
Yeah.
that's the sort of guy Hall was. You strike when the iron's hot.
Oh,
You're
that's
not going to
exactly
fool
right.
around. You're going to get
Yeah,
it
not gonna
done.
fool around.
You're going to get it done. And they did get it done. And the resulting hit, "You Better Move On," the top 40 hit, it reached number 24 on the Hot 100. And as most of the first Fame hits, it did even better on the R&B charts.
Oh, that's right.
Um, but Arthur Alexander was a huge export.
It's
Say something about
it's
that.
it's mind blowing. So
It's mind blowing. Yeah.
he was a figure of real renown in the UK in this era, and I mean, it doesn't get much more important than his songs were recorded by both the Beatles and the Rolling Stones early in their careers. And Keith Richards of the Stones um, still, I mean, talks glowingly about Arthur Alexander's songwriting acumen. I mean, it's just like he
He's
was.
a little bit upset that the Beatles beat them to
Yes,
covering Alexander by about 2 weeks.
by about 2 weeks. So it's. But I think you can make a strong claim that it's Arthur Alexander that really kind of gives birth to the modern notion of the famed studios, right? It's because it's Alexander's success, both at home and abroad, that gives then Hull not only the financial, the capital, but also kind of the whatever the chops in the industry to say, yeah, this guy is real. What happens here can be really really productive, and if you want to record a hit, come to Muscle Shoals, which, but Dave, Muscle Shoals is a tiny little town, but everybody's writing songs here. I mean, it's seemingly every other person is a songwriter, whether it's Dan
It's
Penn or Spooner
incredible.
Oldham, and on it goes. And this is a dinky little out of the way place, but people, again, they talk about it
People
being
are
something
writing
in the water.
songs. People are playing in bands. You know,
It's
it could have almost been Seattle, circa 1990 or something. The way
I
everybody's in a
think
band.
I think that's right. It's a really unusual situation, and so Hall, I mean, does Hall create Muscle Shoals? Sure. But there is something there long before, right, Rick Hall develops Fame Studios. There's just something about this area that is unique. And music and songwriting are just, I mean, just in the air.
Well, yeah, rock historians will wax mystical about uh,
That
Muscle
is for
Shoals,
sure. No, that
uh,
is for sure. Yeah, it's
talking about this a kind of magic, something in the air, something in the water, the river that sings,
well, I
that
mean,
whole bit.
it seems, there isn't really anything that parallels it. There's just in terms of the United States, there just is not a similar kind of rural region where, I mean, just man, this didn't happen like this. But
Well, and
that
just
muscle,
to add an extra aspect to this, Sam Phillips came from Florence, Alabama,
yeah,
as well. And we've done a behind the curtains on Sam Phillips
yeah.
already because why?
Yes, his Sun Studios. Yeah, developed Sun Studios in Memphis. He moves to Memphis and um, at first as a DJ, and then starts his own recording business. And of course, it's Sam Phillips then who it's launches Elvis, and Carl Perkins, and
Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash, and Charlie Rich, and I mean on it goes. Jerry Lee Lewis. But yeah, so again, another person from. So it's yeah, there's something people do this whole waxing mystical. I mean, it's an unusual region, and Hall greatly benefits from the fact that people are deeply engaged in music,
Yeah,
not just playing but also writing,
they want to play. Yeah,
and they
they
want
want
to
to be
play.
involved. So
And I guess it's also the case that in this era, early 60s, right, that there is something about that it still seems possible for people to to put something down on acetate, put something down on wax, to become a recording artist. I think um, it doesn't seem so outlandish that people can like, listen, I got a couple songs here. I'm gonna try it, and they do.
well, the thing is, it's so much different than the commercial music capitals in
Oh,
New York,
absolutely.
Los Angeles, Nashville, because that talent pilgrims to those places to try to make it. If they think they can make it, that's where they go. So it's
That's where
not
they go.
hard to find talent in New York, Nashville, or Los Angeles.
That's right.
But if you're talking about any podunk backwater town
I
in
mean, this is
America, where are you going to find people with chops to play on an international level?
this is where it gets really interesting, right? And so amazingly, improbably, inexplicably, there are in fact there's real talent in Muscle Shoals, not just songwriters but also players. And Hall begins right to make a kind of an alliance with a number of local players. These are just guys who are they're from Northern Alabama. They're from this. I mean, they're not moving here from someplace. They've
They're
grown up here.
locals. Yeah.
They're locals. And this connection with these musicians, and there are a couple of waves of them, but this is what I think really helps then set Hall's studio apart from other similar studios because these guys were extraordinary and
And
people
and
wanted to
they
record
were
with them.
essentially high school students. They were 18, 19
They
years
were
old
kids.
when they came to the studio and started playing for him. And I think it's to his credit that they became the musicians they became. He was a very exacting taskmaster. He knew what he wanted to hear. He knew enough about playing music that he
I
could
think that's a key. Yeah,
instruct them on how to achieve
that's right.
these effects. Um, and his first band, his first studio band, didn't stick around long because they were making hits that were attracting attention. Um, we've already talked about "You Better Move On." With the money that they made from that, as you said, he built his studio at Avalon Avenue, the 603 Avalon Avenue, and recorded Jimmy Hughes' "Steal Away," which became a top 20 hit.
Yeah,
Hall says, I had no illusions. You make hits, you survive. You attract attention and have a chance to make some more hits.
that's
If you
it.
go into the studio and pop out something that everyone can ignore, that's exactly what's going to happen. And you're done in a very, very short amount of time.
It's a very pragmatic way of going about all of this. And so this notion of sort of artistic exploration and all, all this stuff that will really dominate the later 60s. And it wasn't a part of him at all. It's like
No.
we're here to record songs that are going to sell. And if it's not going to sell, take it someplace else. We're
And
not that's not what we're here for.
his guys will tell you, he would have you do 100 takes if he thought that it
Yes.
wasn't it wasn't
Yes.
working. He'd do 100 takes until at 101 he said, "Yeah, that's it."
That's the one.
But
And
he
not
was
until
not
then.
settling. He was not settling for anything less than the right sound.
But what's happening here is that incrementally, right? His songs, the songs he's producing, they're selling, and um, his credibility in the industry, and it is rising, and I think his confidence to some degree is rising as well, which is good and bad, and and so there's a certain kind of fame sound, a certain kind of Rick Hall sound that's starting to develop, and suddenly, right, is he starts to attract name talent, right? So no longer the just the locals, the bellhop down the street, but you people who hear about what's going on here and I think I want a part of this.
Well, yeah. Above all, other record companies and so on are
This
starting to
is
send people his way. Someone's starting to send some of their
this
artists
is a key
for
thing.
him to produce. Um, he 1963 was when he produced Steal Away. I guess they were constructing the studio in 62. He said he went in there and they started playing and he got the chills. He just got goosebumps. The hair on the back of his neck
Got the chill
went up,
bumps. Yes, right.
and he knew he
He
knew
knew.
he
He
had
knew.
his second hit. Then the Tams were sent his way by
Hmm.
what was the guy that helped with the studio?
Owen Bradley.
By Bradley, and they put out "What Kind of Fool," also
Hmm.
1963. That went up. That became a top 10 hit. So things are looking up, right?
Things are
And
looking. That's right.
um, Joe Tex is the next guy that gets sent his way. Um, and in 1964, November 64, they recorded Hold On to What You've Got by Joe
Yep.
Tex. And that went up all the way to number one on the R&B charts, number five on the Hot 100.
So I mean, so here we go, right? So the proof is in the pudding. We're talking now, right?
Yeah.
Real success.
And
Joe
of course,
Tex. That's fantastic.
with real success comes the first Deserters. His,
Well, this is right. I mean, right.
the Muscle
And that's how
Shoals.
he would see it too.
Yeah, although I had a feeling that
Well, it's not as
he was able to deal with that
this this
better
wasn't as
than what came later.
well, yeah, because they didn't set up shop down the street. But yeah,
No,
but right. So the first
They
Deserters,
went to Nashville, and
they went to Nashville, right?
um, we're talking
So
here about
uh
people like Norbert Putman,
Nor Putman, yeah,
bassman,
Spooner, yeah,
David Briggs on piano,
Briggs, yeah.
Jerry Kerrigan on drums, Peanut Montgomery, Terry Thompson. These guys left Muscle Shoals for Nashville in 1965. And they didn't go together. They didn't go to make their own thing like the Swampers would do later. They just, Nashville was calling, and they all answered that call more or less
It's
individually.
very interesting with this original set of musicians that they are sort of the creme of the creme in Nashville, and they will also become very important touring musicians. And for example, Neil Young, Spooner Oldham, um, tours with Neil Young for decades, and on this goes. They all have their interesting stories, but I think you're right. So this was Hall was maybe a little wounded, but only a little wounded by this, and he managed then to sort of pick up and keep going with
Again, with high school kids.
high school kids, more kids down the street. Again, it's just unbelievable.
Um, And this was the rhythm section that became known as the Swampers. That's Barry Beckett on keyboards, Roger Hawkins is the drummer, David Hood on bass, Jimmy Johnson on guitar,
Yeah.
and Spooner Oldham on keyboard.
Spooner would stay around off and
And
on. Yeah.
this is uh, the next really big break um, comes when he gets a call from Jerry Wexler,
Yeah, this is interesting. Yeah, the Wexler in
1967, early
this is
67, 9 of January.
yeah, 67 January. The Wexler's with Atlantic, right?
Right.
And this the Atlantic, of course, has become the R&B label, I mean, of choice for many artists. It's started, Atlantic has roots with Ahmet Ertegun, roots in jazz and blues, but
And talk about two of your most interesting music industry executives right there, the
okay.
Atlantic guys.
Oh, it's super. It's
We
super.
will do it behind this
Yeah, for
interview.
sure. But the thing about Fame is that it's a production studio, and I don't know that but so it's a production studio, so that things are recorded there. But they don't have they need distribution deals. They're not making records. They're not distributing records. I mean, and so they need links with larger companies. And so yeah, so
Let
you
me
just
back up
recalled
just a
them.
little bit
Yeah, because
because we're talking about Jerry Wexler now.
right.
The connection to Jerry Wexler, what
This is
made that
interesting.
whole thing
Yeah.
possible even uh, was uh, Percy Sledge,
Yep.
um, who had been, I think, a hospital orderly and
I think that's right.
just kind of somebody that would sing for some field workers and just at an Elks Club, one of the first actually official performances that he ever gave. Um, a local disc jockey, Sims, uh,
Yeah, that's right.
I
I
think
think
that's the name,
yeah.
Sims, heard him and said, "Wow, that's fantastic. Do you want to cut a record?" And he did. So they did.
This is what happened back in the era, right?
I'm a little
So
bit confused about this because I
there
don't
okay.
think that happened at Fame Studios,
I think you're
but
right. But
but Swampers played on
that's right. They
that
played on that record.
recording.
Yeah.
So and Sims came to Hall then and said, "Can you place this for me? It's an absolute hit. I just need a record company to pick it up." And Hall said, "I think I can do that." And he had had
It had some
connection,
interaction.
some
Yeah.
interaction before, and so he called Jerry Wexler and said,
So
"Hit me."
yeah, so strictly speaking, Percy Sledge was not necessarily a kind of Fame artist, but it's Percy Sledge then that creates a kind of bridge to Atlantic, which then brings Atlantic artists down
Yeah.
for a time, including
Atlantic had a huge hit, of course, with "When a Man Loves a Woman,"
yeah,
uh,
yes, yes, they did.
which sounds. I always thought that was Motown because it just sounds so, but it wasn't.
It's
It wasn't.
and
Um, again, local talent writing local
yeah,
songs,
local talent, right? Yeah, I
uh,
mean, again, it's all local. It's
recording
just
right
amazing.
there.
Yeah,
But
it's
so that opened the door, and Atlantic, especially Jerry Wexler, then said, "Okay, I have a kid here. Uh, shit.
I think
Yeah,
that's
Wilson Pickett.
it's one Wilson Pickett. Yeah,
Like you to do some work with him, and brought him down. No, I'm lying. Sent him down. Hall picked him up at the airport
yeah.
and kind of thought he was had a kind of dangerous or aura about him.
It is interesting that there is this sense, yeah, wary.
And he said, and it was absolutely mutual. He looked at me and saw this cracker, Um, and we were both,
It's
well, he was
the
wondering what
what
he
the
was going to
hell?
get from working with me.
Well, yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, because it is the era, right? I mean, this is a tense era, on a number of levels. And my God, it's Alabama. And so, yeah, it right.
But they got
There
into the
is
Studio,
they got into the studio, and then it changes
then
dramatically.
everything gelled. Everything gelled.
Everything did. Yeah, it's really something. Yeah, it's fascinating to read the accounts of both of them because they both have that kind of similar sort of. But once the music starts and once they start to interact on that level, it's yeah, a real
Yeah.
bond develops. Yeah,
Um,
it's really something.
so uh, that was working out. And Wexler had just signed a young woman
Oh, this is
whose contract with Capitol had run out.
yes,
She
yeah.
had made 9 albums for Capitol, and nothing happened. It didn't
Now
go
this is
anywhere.
didn't go anywhere. This is one of the interesting. This is one of the interesting things about Aretha Franklin, right? That her career really doesn't get started until she moves to Atlantic. That she has really no real commercial success with Capitol whatsoever.
Well, Capitol
And they
and
try
Capitol
and
was
they
just
try.
packaging her entirely wrong, and
It was the
Wexler
wrong
saw
place
that.
for. Yeah, it was the wrong place for it. And so, um, but this is yeah. So the Aretha Franklin Muscle Shoals. This is where it gets kind of.
It's such a strange story.
It's really weird.
It's a
Yeah,
real
yeah. So
strange story. In fact, I think we may have to talk about a song story for this one because it's so bizarre. But Wexler
yeah,
says,
it's bizarre. Yeah,
I'd like to bring her down. I think you can do something for her.
yep,
And she got into the studio, and there was just a very tentative, hesitant type of
yeah. I think
feeling
that
out
that's
of her and the musicians. And she brought her husband down with her,
yeah.
who was
That was
also in the studio. Um, and Hall was very skeptical. He said, she was virtually unknown. She couldn't get arrested, um, and
yeah,
her sound wasn't really what we do. But
yeah.
we also knew if we could make this work, we had an in with Atlantic Records, which was
This is
which
yeah.
was
This is where it gets,
huge.
which was huge. So I mean, for them, it was. I mean, Atlantic is one of the biggest labels in the world, and it was. So it's very interesting that his approach to this is the commercial aspect of it. I mean, it's always at the heart of his of his being.
It's very pragmatic.
It's yeah, alarmingly so almost.
Well, he
But
said, he just didn't see this working.
he didn't see it. He didn't see it. Yeah,
And but one of the things that they did differently in Muscle Shoals, as opposed to uh, certainly in New York, was that they weren't working with scores and notes and so on and so forth. They were doing what Aretha Franklin would come to refer to as head sessions.
yeah,
They were jamming.
jamming.
They were jamming. And so she had her song. She brought it. Wexler said, "Give her the piano." So she was sitting at the
Right,
piano. She was
right.
playing this, and the guys were trying to. They were all trying out, their bits. They
This
weren't
is
getting it.
so they weren't getting it. It just wasn't clicking. Yes,
And so,
then yeah.
and there was just a moment of silence where it's like, okay, what now?
Oh yeah, this is yeah.
And then Spooner Oldham,
It's Spooner.
the keyboardist,
It's
came up
Spooner.
with just this little intro, and oh, that's it. Aretha Franklin starts doing her thing on the piano, filling that, and then everybody joins in, and that's it. That took 15 to 20 minutes to produce once Spooner found the groove. And it was her first number one
And that song
hit.
was what, Dave?
It was her first hit at all, but it went straight to number one.
And that
And
song was what?
that was I Never Loved a Man the
Yeah,
Way I Love You.
yeah.
Um,
It, so had Spooner not come up with that,
had Spooner not come up with that,
I mean,
we might not have ever heard of Aretha Franklin.
I think I think that's right.
So
I think
it's
that's
just one
right.
of those crazy
It's just
moments.
unbelievable to think that Aretha Franklin's career was, I mean, but that's really, I think it was a make or break point.
Oh, and
And it,
she sees it exactly the
oh,
same way.
no, that's exactly right. And yeah, and it's this little intro, and then things start to cook. It's
Things
just
start
wild.
to cook
It's just wild.
on two different levels.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It starts to cook between the musicians in the studio,
Yes.
and it also starts to cook with her husband. What's his
So, oh,
White?
I
I don't
don't
remember
remember
his first name.
those.
Apparently, my impression is he was not helpful for her career overall.
I think that's fair. Yeah,
Um,
it's not helpful at all.
and this was just one incident
One of
that
many. Yeah.
underlined. But he started drinking vodka there in the studio with one of the horn guys. I think the
And this is,
trumpet.
yeah, yeah,
And at some point, um, that guy became a little overly familiar uh, with them and called her Aretha Baby, which Joe English, I think, which anyway offended Mr. English, and he told Wexler that that guy was going to have to be fired. So Wexler went in and said, "Oh, I guess he went into the booth and said he's going to
went into the
fire
booth.
Wexler and Hall were both there." And Hall said, "Well, turn to Wexler. What do you want to do?" He says, "You go fire the guy." So he did. He was fired from that session. Uh, Before all was over, they had fired a second horns guy. Um, and they had cut a good portion of the second song, Do Right Woman, Do Right Man. And the session was over for the day. And it was unclear how things were going to continue.
Yeah.
You want to tell the rest of the story?
Well, I don't, yeah, no, I don't. I want you to
Okay,
tell it.
all right. Well, um, so Hall goes to Wexler and says, "Look, I'm going to." He he is sitting at the studio drinking some vodka himself. Takes 3 or 4 shots of vodka and then goes to Wexler and says, "I'm going to go straighten this out. I'm going to go to their hotel and talk to him."
Yeah.
So I said, "No, no, no, don't do that."
Don't do that.
And Hall said, "No, we need to get this taken care of. It'll be cool. I'll be cool. We'll get it arranged." And Wexler said, "Again, please do not go there."
Yeah.
And then he went. And the two of them, English and Hall, uh,
Yeah.
tried to throw each other
Yes.
from the fourth floor balcony of the hotel. Um, Hall
It's,
left. English left.
yeah.
Uh, Aretha was left there by herself in the hotel
Yeah.
room.
Yeah.
It was
Disaster.
a disaster. And
It,
Wexler accosted Hall and said,
this is, yeah,
You're finished. You're dead to me.
you're dead
I'm
to
never
me.
going to work with you again. I'm going to bury you." And Hall said, "You're not going to bury me." "Well, why not? You're too old. You'll be you'll be pushing up daisies long before I'm dead." The,
This
that,
is that's such a okay. So this reveals, right? I think a number of things, right? That okay, enormous egos, all around. It is the case that Rick Hall wasn't going to take instruction from anyone at any time. Okay, I think that yeah, it's also the case, right, that Rick Hall was not really particularly intimidated by anyone at this point. It may it's he's so headstrong. It works to his detriment, I think, on some level. But he is just not intimidated by Atlantic or anybody else. Um, it's odd though.
he deeply regretted that incident.
Well, yeah, he certainly did, but I mean, but in the moment, it's just like, he just, yeah,
And to
he's
his
pragmatic enough to know it was a huge mistake, but
sure, to his credit, he didn't try to pretty up the story at all. I mean, it's pretty clear what happened was his fault, and he should have just left it alone
well,
and couldn't. I
the
don't
other,
think there's
yeah,
any question about him trying to say, "Oh, well, I just got a victim of circumstance" or anything like that. I think he was very clear about, I fucked up, and it cost me dearly.
I think that's fair. It is also the case that it was a dry county. Alcohol, it was always somewhat of a question as terms of the substances that were going to be used in the studio and where they would be used. So the notion of drinking and that was it. It was unusual, and when it did happen, it occasionally led to problems, like this one. Yeah. So, but it's also the case that Rick Hall needed um, he needed Atlantic. He needed talent. He needed a constant source of talent infusion because you could not make a real go of it in the music industry by relying on guys, down the road. That you needed people to come to you.
And
So
Wexler had already brought him Wilson Pickett, and he just saw what Aretha Franklin could do. So clearly, that was a connection that was important to him, and he lost it. Now, Rick
it's a
Hall
yeah.
lost the connection. The Swampers didn't.
This one. This is the thing, right? So it's yeah. So
So go ahead.
Wexler knew. Yeah, so Wexler understood that the magic of Muscle Shoals was not necessarily Rick Hall behind the control in the control studio, but it's the guys playing. And once those guys broke off and created their own studio, which we'll talk more about, the connection with Atlantic and other labels, it would continue. But Rick Hall was
Well, Wexler financed them.
yes, I
He
mean
put up the money for them to start their own,
it's
which is, I think, one of the reasons that I mean, that's just kind of like adding insult to injury, right? When
well, this is the thing, Dave. I think you're right. I mean, this is because it's clear that Wexler had it. I mean, he had it in for Hall at that point,
and he
and you
wanted to
could
be able to work with the Swampers without
and he
having to
wanted to
work
be
with
able to
Hall.
work with it.
So
And so this is where the personal and the professional. It
yeah,
all gets kind of mixed together. But that was a that was a big mistake. Going to that room, that was a big mistake.
well, and
And
my impression was that they both would have told you up until that point we had a great relationship.
I think that's right. Yeah, that's my sense as well. But it all, yeah,
All just fell apart, right?
poof, yeah. And then the trajectory is very interesting and complicated, and personal, and quite, yeah, quite mean.
But anyway, Aretha Franklin will go back and say that was the turning point in my career. So,
Yeah,
and
interestingly,
I
yeah.
think
I
it
mean,
clearly was. I think
it gave birth
objectively,
to
there's no other
yeah
way to see it.
to the modern Aretha Franklin that we know. No, it is true, right? Because Colombian albums that she recorded are considered really very strong, but they just didn't yield much. But Aretha as a singles artist, 60s, late 60s into the 70s. I mean, it starts there. That's exactly right.
Well, they played to her strengths,
Yes.
and that was not what was going on in Colombia.
So again,
Anyway,
so yeah,
so Rick Hall has this problem. He just developed an artist that he was not going to be able to work with anymore.
right.
So Leonard Chess from Chicago,
Hmm.
Chess Records, said, "Well, listen, if you've got some spare studio time, why don't you take Etta James under your wing?" And
Yeah.
so in 1967, Etta James goes down to Muscle Shoals and works with Rick Hall and the Swampers for her Tell Mama album. And of course, the title single "Tell Mama" was one of her kind of a comeback hit, actually.
Yeah, that's my sense of it as well. That yeah, that this was that she there was a kind of fallow period, and the Chess was looking for a kind of rebirth, and she it was productive. It was productive, um, and I think
And
um,
Hall and James were actually developed a
yes,
very fond relationship.
this unlike yeah, I mean I think this is so. I think we are well, we are. I think Hall's prickly, and I think he's a
It's prickly,
difficult cat.
yeah.
Prickly, but he didn't clash with everyone. I mean, he just didn't, right? And so there are some people that admired and appreciated what he had to bring, and I think Etta James was one of them. And so I think,
Well, it's not that she had her own ideas about what she
oh
wanted
well,
to be doing,
sure, yes,
and and
she's
Hall also was like, I'm producing this. It's going to sound like I want it to
that's
sound,
right, yeah, that's right,
and so there were times when they had disagreements.
of course.
Um, but in the end, he said, try it my way. If in an hour we listen to what we've recorded and you don't like what it sounds like, then we'll do it differently.
I have to say, yeah, and so that's a really key point, Dave. That you read these accounts of Hall and interacting with musicians, and he has very specific ideas, but he is always open to the notion of, okay, we can try it your way. I mean, he's not necessarily shutting people down. He's definitely pushing his opinions and definitely pushing, his vision, but he is open enough, pragmatic enough to know that, maybe there are other ways. And so, yeah,
And she said, in retrospect, anytime that we disagreed, he was right.
well, um, yeah,
Well, that's what she said.
yeah, yeah, it's all of this is, of course, the context of all this. I mean, it's 1967. It's Alabama, and so there, and you've got a racial dynamic. Outside the studio, you've got racial dynamic within the studio. It's a very complex and candidly kind of combustible situation. By and large, right? It is what happens in the studio is collaborative. What happens in the studio, there's a certain kind of equality, I think. But it's interesting. As soon as they would leave the studio, like for a lunch break or something like that, there are all these accounts of going to diners and things like that in the town, and Rick Hall and others being really worried
Yes,
about
yeah.
what would happen, like either in the restaurant or on the street or something like that. And so there's this incredible kind of thing swirling about, because this is not just anywhere. This is Alabama in
Right.
the 60s
And
with George
and
Wallace fanning the flames.
and as you said, in the studio, um, you were a musician,
Yeah, you're a musician.
and your race was irrelevant, insignificant, did not play a role. Uh, what you could do as a musician was all that mattered, and it was all
Yeah.
about collaboration. And Hall referred to the situation as being colorblind, which Okay.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, but okay.
But you go with these people that you're uh, collaborating with, that you have friendly, egalitarian relationships with, into a public where nobody is
You,
used to seeing white and blacks
you are
sitting at the same
exactly right. No,
table,
that's exactly
laughing
right. Well,
together, that sort of thing.
as soon as you leave the door of fame, as soon as you walk outside, hit the parking lot, in the street, sidewalk, whatever, it's a different world. It's a completely different world. And it was, and there were tensions within the community about what was happening, right, at fame. That what was going on there, and and not everybody was sanguine about it. It's astounding that this all happened in Alabama in the 60s. I mean,
And I think
oh,
the one thing that maybe saved the whole situation was that the idea that blacks are involved in entertainment and the entertainment industry, and that they sing and dance for our pleasure,
white America's pleasure. Is that what
white
you?
America's pleasure, might have been the thing. Well, those are the fame
Well,
people,
this is, I think, Dave.
So
I mean, I do think that's key because these are incendiary enough times that you could imagine scenarios where people in the community, white residents of the community, would just be, deeply offended by what's happening there.
buildings have
And
been firebombed for much
yes,
less.
sir, that's exactly right. This is the era. I mean,
Yeah.
and again, this is in terms of racial intolerance, I mean, Alabama might be ground zero. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And so that this is being accomplished in Alabama is astounding. And I don't think Rick Hall and company really get enough credit for this because they are negotiating a very fraught landscape, a very fraught landscape,
Yeah.
and they do so. Yeah, I mean, do so with consistency and a certain grace. It's really quite amazing. I mean, almost, yeah, unparalleled anywhere.
And as problematic as that was, it would get even more problematic.
Yep.
In 1968, one Dwayne Allman started hanging out.
Yeah. So yeah. And it started hanging out, I think that's apt because
He
like in
pitched his
the,
pup
he's like
tent
in the parking lot.
in the
Yes.
parking lot. Um, and at some point, um, is actually able to play, and they're able to see what he can do. And from that point on, there was no question of his just hanging out. It's like, oh, let's get Dwayne in here. Um,
It,
but during his parking lot phase, he would start talking to Wilson Pickett, uh, and they would they got on friendly terms. And Wilson Pickett comes into Hall and says, "I was talking to Dwayne. He thinks we should cover Hey Jude." And Hall just says, "Oh well, he's had too many funny cigarettes. We're not we're not doing Beatles music here." Um, but as history shows, they actually ended up doing that to uh, an astounding effect.
it's astounding. It is interesting that so Dwayne Allman's tenure at Fame is short. He's there
Unlike
for
his
just a
hair.
short time, unlike his hair. He eventually moves on to Miami, and then of course the Allman Brothers form. But it suggests that the studio is becoming well known amongst musicians. That it's the kind of thing that good players in the South want to be a part of. And so by the time we get to the late 60s, Fame's reputation I think, is set.
Yeah.
And it's a place that where quality is, I mean, Great things are happening. And if you're associated with it, you're going to be playing on hit records. And there's, and all of that. So the Dwayne Allman story, but yeah, I mean the pop tent in the parking lot is, I mean, it's a
But
classic.
the thing is, the Swampers were much more nervous about going into the luncheon with Dwayne Allman than they
I think
were
that
with
I
going in with their black colleagues. Uh,
they did not. I think it's fair.
Hippies
Yeah, they
were
didn't. This
just
was.
the worst.
I think that's yeah. I mean, in short, yes. That was the counterculture had not really reached Northern Alabama, and
And was
Dwayne
not
Allman,
really appreciated there.
and it was not really appreciated. And so whatever Dwayne, I mean, it was yeah,
It's just,
they
I
were
think it's
really
a
uncomfortable.
dinosaur situation right there. It's
Yeah, it was really something.
tuck your
Yeah,
hair
it's
up under your hat and
didn't
don't
know
tip
what
your
to
hat
make
to
of
this
him.
lady boy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, so I mean, obviously this was one of the things that makes all of this so interesting is that the 60s is such a dynamic era. But you have so many things swirling about. And as amazing as it might seem, they are in popular music in an era where, popular music is, it's very much associated with the counterculture and all of that. But there
Right.
was nothing particularly countercultural about Fame Studios. In fact, there was nothing countercultural about Fame
Well,
Studios.
um, it seems like the first tender roots of the Allman Brothers band um, kind of started at Fame Studios.
I think that's right.
Um,
That's fair.
and if Hall had been someone else, who
Well,
knows?
hell yes. Well, hell yes. It's all right.
Maybe
I
they
hear
would
you.
have recorded there or whatever. But um, he relates a story where he came in and uh, these musicians around Dwayne Allman were all lying around, and Dwayne was lying under his sleeping bag, and Hall goes, "What's going on here? Let's get to
Yeah.
work." And Dwayne Allman says, "Oh no, not the right time, not the right vibes. The stars and the moon are
The right
not in the
vibes.
correct positions, but I'll just let it happen, man. It's going to happen,
Just
and
let it happen.
then just turn on the
All right.
tape machine. You'll end up a billionaire if you just let us do our thing."
It's okay.
And
So
Rick
it's
Hall
yeah.
said, "Well, that's just really not my thing," and so that was
It was yeah. Okay, yeah. So there's so much there. So eventually the Allman Brothers obviously take root. They will make their way to Capricorn Studios in Macon, Georgia, run by one Phil Walden. A very different kind of setup,
yeah.
a very different kind of vibe, and also, to be, candid, it is also a place that imploded after just a few years, right? That Capricorn was an incredible place, but it
But
didn't. There was
it was
it didn't
heavily
last.
infused with the hippie
Oh
ethos.
my God, yes. Also to the dismay of local residents. Macon, Georgia was no Berkeley.
No.
But yeah, so Hall was not going to. It's just yeah, because you're right. Why didn't the Allman Brothers take root there? Why you can imagine a scenario, but that wasn't how it was going to work with Rick Hall. No, no, sir. Uh,
Well, let's talk about the fatal year 1969.
yeah,
Um, Rick Hall decides, uh, even if it's not going to work with Atlantic, he really needs to have a formal association with a major record company.
yes,
And so he goes to Los Angeles and talks to the folks at Capitol and comes away with a deal, which he brings back to
yeah.
Muscle Shoals. That same week, the Swampers had gotten together and been talking to each other. Um, apparently they had an offer from Wexler
Excellent, yeah.
that he would finance a studio for them if they wanted to break off from Fame Studios. They could
Yeah.
do their own thing. They'd be their
I
own studio band.
yes.
They can produce their stuff.
Yes.
It,
Dave, I think, yeah, good.
yeah, independence and
Independence.
a bigger share of the pie.
Yeah, this is the thing. I think that the Swampers were chafing a bit under Hull's tutelage and wanted, yeah, I mean, wanted a little more action, financial piece of the pie and all that. I think the seeds of independence were already there, but I think Wexler, I mean, I think when Wexler said, I mean, Wexler sensed it. I mean, these things all happen sort of at the same time, and it's hard to know, what was the most important piece of all of this. But it's clear that the Swampers, who were still young men, um, they felt that they had gone to as far as they could at fame, and that Rick Hall wasn't going to change. And so, all right, so it's time. But
Yeah,
Hall
but they didn't
apparently,
know, they did not know um,
yeah,
that Hall was going to be coming back with a
and
contract.
and the thing that I find very odd, Dave, about all this is that Hall didn't seems to not have a real sense that these young men were frustrated. That they did in fact want more independence. They wanted more of a financial stake in all of this. That he seemed sort of blind to that. Now I find that a little odd given the amount of time that they all spent together. But maybe
I
that's just a
think
blind
that they
spot that
were
he
very,
had.
very loath to
Well, undoubtedly.
show that
Well,
openly.
I'm
And this
certain
comes
that's true.
even with this, they've made the decision, they've got to tell him. But even then, they want to, well, let's let Jimmy do it. Jimmy Johnson was supposed to be their spokesperson. He was supposed to
This
go
is
talk to,
hilarious.
but that's not how it worked out. Hall came back from Los Angeles, called them up to his office.
Yeah, so they're all in the same room.
They're all
This
in
is
the same room.
unbelievable.
They have to go up the stairs knowing this is going to be
Yeah.
the moment when it comes to the split.
And
And
apparently Hall doesn't have any sense of this,
he
which
he
is
he thinks he's got great news for them,
that's
right? And
that
and he
right. Yeah, I think
he
yeah.
tells he tells them, oh, we've got to deal with Columbia. And this is
Capital.
sorry, Capital.
Yeah.
Um, and this is this means a regular salary for you guys. It was not a salary for not a top salary for session players, not by a long
No,
shot.
no, it wasn't.
But and then they had to tell him,
Yeah.
yeah, we've decided we're done here. We're going out on our own.
Yeah, leaving en masse. And so yeah, it's as it's described years later, it's like one of the most everybody has their kind of perspective on it, but it's woo, it was just one of those moments.
I
I
think
mean,
his
and,
last
and
words for them was, "You'll never make it."
yeah, that's and I okay, and so what's interesting about this to me is that he was it's the kind of thing that people told him. He was not a guy, he was a guy, he was a climber. He was assertive, he was aggressive, he was ambitious.
He knew what he wanted.
And he couldn't see that in them, nor did he have the grace, whether in certainly in the moment, to wish them. I mean, it's just wish them well. It's. I mean, I understand all this, betrayal,
It
but
it,
it's
it,
just
it it did
odd
not
to
it did
me.
not cause the explosion that they had feared,
That's true. No, they really thought that it might get really ugly.
but
They were really afraid. It
yeah, it was
was bad enough.
he was not able to
No,
be
it wasn't.
real big about it.
No, it wasn't. And so it's they do make amends, and we'll talk later about this. They do make amends of sorts down the road, decades later. But what this does leave then is you have the development of another studio on Jackson Highway, just honest to God, just down the road. I mean, it's not far at all. And
It's
so
like
you
two
have,
Trump casinos
there you go.
in competition with each other.
It's odd. Yeah, yeah, this tiny little place in the middle of nowhere. Now you're going to have um, two recording studios. Well,
Like two McDonald's in a 500 soul town.
it's like that. It's like that. Yeah.
1969 left Hall feeling a bit burnt.
I think that's fair.
Uh, and
Yeah.
so going forward, he was going to make sure that that damn sure did not
Well,
happen
that's right.
again, right? Um, so he put together the Fame Gang, some other artists, went a little bit further this time. Wasn't all just locals. Got some
Right.
folks from Nashville, from Memphis, and so on. Um, and this time around, he had all of the players, all of his session guys, all of his studio people sign exclusive contracts, which meant they would not play for anyone other than Fame Studios without his permission, right?
Right.
They had to come in every day. They they like literally punched the clock, right? And this was according to his son Rodney, talking some
Yeah.
interview.
I,
But
I
the contract paid them a salary of $200 a week. And then on top of that, when they were actually playing sessions, they would get the studio musician union rate on top of the retainer, say, which was
Oh,
okay.
okay. Which is okay. Which so it was. I mean, well, what you're suggesting here, I think, is that these musicians were making a good living. In the cost of living in the Muscle Shoals area was comparatively low,
Right.
so they could certainly sustain themselves.
Yes.
But the it certainly kind of altered the atmosphere of the studio to a degree. And as you're suggesting, there is a kind of factory-like atmosphere being set. But again, Hall he wasn't going to get burnt three times, and so it just this just that's how it played out.
And this time, he actually had hired some black musicians. So it
Yeah,
was really a mixed group. So his core wasn't just an all-white guy group, but the Fame Gang was actually interracial.
yeah, that's right. And which is still not that's not a small thing in Alabama in the late '60s, early '70s. It's he is Hall is evolving, but I think he's also ever more cautious. He's such a fascinating guy, right? And he is there's a certain kind of paranoia that's omnipresent with him. And the when the rhythm section left, that was a psychic blow. It wasn't just a personal thing. I think there was a psychic blow.
Yeah,
It was just a
much,
financial
much more
thing.
so than the first time
I much more so.
his players left. Um, so yeah, he was going to be much more cautious this time around.
Much more. And so that whole Fame Gang thing, which you're suggesting was, I mean, and it is the case, right? That Muscle Shoals by this point, it's a destination and you can recruit people from because they know that they're going to be on planning great sessions and they're going to make modest, they make good money.
That's right.
But he's you you can just feel that there's always a certain kind of tightness with him. And it never leaves. He's
Well,
wound pretty tight.
you get pounded over the head
I
so
guess
often
so.
and so hard
I
by fate, and I think it's just probably amazing that you don't just curl up in a ball in a
well,
corner somewhere.
I think that there's something to that, Dave. But it is also the case, right, that by this point, Rick Hall is, I mean, he's quite famous. Shoals is a destination, the Fame Studios. So he is, I mean, the hits keep coming, the artists keep showing up at his door. But it's a little different. It's a little different vibe, moving on after the Fame Gang takes shape.
All right, just a couple words about the Fame Gang. Um, Probably as primus inter pares was Mickey Buckins, the percussionist. He had played in the mid 60s, toured around with a band that he headed up called Mickey Buckins and the New Breed. But by 1967, he had become a member of the Fame Studios, and
Yeah.
he worked his way up so that by the time the Fame Gang came together, he was the de facto leader. Um, he was doing producing, arranging. He was the studio manager at that point and the chief engineer.
Mhm.
So he was their percussionist, but he was also so much more.
Right.
We had the other drummers, Freeman Brown, Roger Clark, Fred Pouty. We had guitarists Junior Lowe and Travis Owamick, bassist Jesse Boyce, Jerry Bridges, Jerry Masters, Bob Ray,
Mhm.
and on horns, Harvey Thompson, Ronnie Elis, Aaron Vernell, and Harrison Calloway Jr., who had
Yeah.
actually played in the first Fame horns section.
Right.
So he was back again, so to speak. Um, but these are the people we're talking about. Oh, the keyboardist Clayton Ivey, James Hooker, Randy McCormick. So he had quite a stable,
Oh
um,
yeah.
a deep bench, so to speak.
Yeah.
And he was going to need it because they were going to be busy going forward.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's talk about bubblegum pop because
Oh, only if we have to.
if there's anything that Muscle Shoals is known for, I think it's that.
This okay. This is, I mean, this is the strangest. This is one of the strangest chapters in the Muscle Shoals Fame Recall experience. I mean, a lot of these artists, he works with a wide variety of artists, but this bubblegum thing, which is substantial, it's just it's peculiar and yeah, it's
Well,
odd.
okay, how did it come to that? Um, Mike Curb,
Well,
who we've
yeah,
had occasion to talk about before, signed the Osmonds to MGM and sent them to Muscle Shoals. So once again, the name pops up, and
yeah, it's the attract. It's okay. So here's the thing.
and of course
You
the
know,
Osmonds are the group for Mike Curb, right? I mean, they're
they're
like
eh,
the
yeah, they're the huge yeah, they're the group for MGM. And they are an enormously successful group. I mean, maybe of dubious uh, quality in terms of some of the choices they make artistically, but they sell a lot of records. They sell a lot of records, and
well they do after they go to
well,
Muscle
is it
Shoals.
the case, Dave, that part of the appeal? Okay, so the Muscle Shoals thing, it is, they have a stamp, they have a brand, they have a track record of success. Fair enough. But is it also the case that Mike Curb, who is a decidedly conservative individual, wants to send a decidedly conservative group of artists to a place of relative isolation, um, where there are few, if any, temptations, and that they just nose to the grindstone. I think
I
that
think
there's
yeah, I
I
think
think
that's
there's
right.
something, yeah, I mean, you're not going, you could send them anywhere, but Muscle Shoals is, you're not going to get into trouble. Young men are not going to get into
Yeah, it's not the
trouble,
cesspool of sin that LA or NYC would be,
right? Or even Memphis, right?
or even Memphis. That's right.
So, so there we go. And so, uh, the proof is in the pudding because there is this kind of Hall. Hall can even make the Osmonds sound good.
Well, well, I think they do sound good. So much so that their first hit,
Uh,
One
yeah.
Bad Apple, to this day is often attributed to the Jacksons. And that's saying something.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, okay. So, Hall works with the Osmonds. You can talk a little bit about a number of songs, but really most of their early hits
Most of their early hits,
have the fame stamp.
One Bad Apple, Double Lovin', Yo Yo, Sweet and Innocent, which was a cut from the Osmonds LP, which was their third studio LP, but it was the first with MGM and certainly the first coming out of Muscle
Right.
Shoals. Um, that was originally packaged as part of the Osmond thing, but then as a single was credited to Donny Osmond as if it were a solo effort of his. And then, of course, it didn't take long for Donny to be packaged as a solo artist as well,
Right.
with "Go Away, Little Girl" and a lot of creepy little songs about young love.
Well,
Well,
yes, creepy, I
yes,
think is the word. Some regrettable choices there, but Hall recognized, like most people did, that Donnie was the breakout brother. And so you don't hide your light under a bushel basket. Rick Hall wants to sell records. The Osmonds wants to sell records. Mark Kerb wants to sell records. So let's get that young Donnie out in front. Yeah, that's what happens.
and that collaboration arguably led to Hall's being named Billboard's Producer of the Year in
I think this is
1971.
this is yeah. So this is to me of all. So we think about Hall and the ups and downs, and from his perspective, I'm sure the betrayals. The fact that he's honored in this way in this era at the height of pop music, at the height of album rock. I mean, there's just so many
Yeah,
things happening,
yeah.
and it's Rick Hall. Um, and again, I think you're right. I think the Osmonds are sort of some rocket fuel to that, but it has to be delicious for him. A guy who never forgot anyone who did him wrong to have that. I mean, I think that was,
He had been nominated for Producer of the
right.
Year as a Grammy Award in the same category in 1970, and was probably pretty bitter about not getting that one.
Well, you wonder, but he's the thing about Hall is that for all his foibles and for all his rough edges, he was recognized by his peers as being exceptional.
Yeah,
And the Fame Studios, no matter how it, maybe look more like a factory or seem like a factory in 1971 than a studio sometimes, it was a place that was happening and there was great success there.
and
He's a
people, yeah, he
remarkable,
was getting work. I mean, people were sending
I
artists to him,
arguably, yeah.
and there was enough work for both studios in
That's
the end.
that's right. And I think you can make the case, as we're gonna talk about here as we move into this early 70s period, maybe achieves in terms of commercial success some of the high water marks. I mean,
Well,
does it really stand up against, you have Aretha and probably not, and others in that 60s era. But my Lord, they sold a lot of records.
yeah, yeah, and probably more so for the Swampers, but we'll talk about that in our
Yeah,
next
no,
episode.
no, that's right. We will.
Right.
But the Rick Hall thing, the, well, we should maybe just address it here briefly. When the Swampers left and they created their own studio on Jackson Highway, that got a lot of publicity within the industry, and eventually they got real traction. And we'll talk more about that in an upcoming episode. But it's not as though Hall had a dry period. Actually, far from it. this is the thing that's so interesting is that when you think he might be down and out, this is when he really comes back. And so whether it's the Coach Carter or it's Bobby Gentry or it's Mac Davis, again the Osmonds, um, he, my God, just hit after hit,
Yeah.
monster hit after hit coming out of fame.
We're going to be talking about the 70s, right? The decade that's coming up here. And of course, a huge part of that was dominated by disco. And disco was not going to be something coming out of Muscle Shoals. It just wasn't. It's not something
That's
that the
that's
Swampers wanted to do, and it wasn't something that Rick Hall wanted to do.
no, there's no right
So
of
that
all the
was it.
genres,
It was
but okay.
going to be in a slump, but even before that, Hall kind of made a shift in the direction of country music.
I think well, there's no question about that, Dave. And I think strategically, um, it was very savvy.
Yeah.
As the country sound was becoming embraced by a larger audience. And,
We'll start
it,
seeing mainstream artists like John Denver and Olivia Newton-John go for the crossover hits, and that was
oh,
working out well for
absolutely.
them.
And where you see country artists on television hosting variety shows, whether it's Mac Davis or Jerry Reed, these kinds of people, they're becoming an omnipresent part of American culture. And so the country music is moving out, is becoming well, it's broadening a bit. And Hull is right there. I mean, I think you can make the argument that he is one of the kind of the spear carriers in this in terms of expanding country's reach across the United States, really
Yeah.
across the world.
Let's talk about Mac Davis for a second.
Yeah,
Um, Clive Davis from Columbia had just signed Mac to a contract for his third album. So he was going to be a Columbia artist, and he sent him to Muscle Shoals to record. Now, Mac Davis was one of the most prolific and successful songwriters um,
that's for sure.
in that genre. It's just incredible, all of
It's
his
amazing.
songwriting credits.
And he also had interesting relationships with a lot of artists, including, Elvis.
Elvis Presley,
And
Elvis
all this.
recorded a lot of Mac Davis songs.
Yeah. And so um
Just notably
yeah,
in the ghetto and a little less conversation, but there was a lot more. I mean,
yeah,
beyond
yeah.
that, beyond the hits.
But when Matt got to Muscle Shoals, a guy who had had some success was ready to really hit the big time. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you can make the argument that it really is Rick Hall that pushes Mac Davis into the mainstream.
Well, again, there's that little interesting story about they're working on the album, and Rick Hall says to him, "Man, we still don't have the song with the hook for this album."
Yep,
And
that's right.
so Mac Davis sits down and writes in
This
kind
is
of a fit of irony,
this is
um,
unbelievable.
"Don't get hooked on me."
Yeah, I mean, this is okay. This speaks to the expertise of both Hall and Mac Davis. It's unbelievable. Yeah, that's right. He just
And
hammers it out there in the
they
studio,
they
basically.
recorded it that day, and it was just it's one of those stories, one of the many stories of this sort that come out of Muscle Shoals. It's just lightning strikes, right? And
Well, yeah, so it would seem. Yeah,
this this is this is his breakout song as a singer,
100%.
as a
Yeah. So
singer-songwriter.
yeah, and he never looks back after this, really, in a way, right? This is he goes on to a number of other hits, and ends up hosting a variety show, and then he
Yes.
becomes an actor, and
Well, it's
it's kind
very
of
telegenic and yeah.
telegenic. Next thing you know, he's on a Love Boat and things like that. But it's this song, right, that just kind of like, oh, Mac Davis, and it's got Rick Hall's stamp all over it. It's got
Yeah.
the
Shoots to
it's
number
got the
one, the
oh my
Hot
gosh.
100, the adult contemporary charts, 1972. So, you know, it's one thing after another coming out of Muscle Shoals.
Totally agree.
So it's no accident that this is where people are gravitating to. This is where the companies are sending their artists.
Yeah, and I
Just
think
one
that
more word about
yeah, yeah, go
uh,
ahead.
"Baby Don't Get Hooked on Me" is
It it's okay.
is
Here we
so
go.
macho. It's painfully macho.
It's
And back in the day
it's it's problematic.
when macho was in, and a lot of things about male-female relationships were problematic. Even then, it just barely was okay. uh, and he said, "quote I thought it was super egotistical and pretentious." He said this in a Billboard interview.
Well, that's
But
what you would say.
well, yeah, I guess. But
Well, I mean, because it is, but I
it
mean
is.
the
Uh,
protagonist in the there's few. Okay, it's horrendous. The song was
well,
unbelievable. I'm a
but all right,
pig.
I
I'm a
posed this to you.
pig.
I posed this to
But
you as a philosophical question, and our listeners certainly can get into this.
absolutely no.
Um, but is it better for a man like that to be open about the fact that, look, I don't love you, and we're in this for the fun that I'm having, and if it
For the
gets
fun that I'm
serious, I'm
having, yeah.
gone, as opposed to the bastard that says, "Baby, baby, I love you. Come on, it's now or never," uh, and then leaves.
Well, I don't know. We'll get Hugh Hefner away on this in a moment, but it's okay. It's unbelievable.
I,
Yeah,
I
is it
I
better?
tend to think
Well,
that this is better. I think
oh,
that
okay.
they're both monsters of their own sort, but this is
Yikes.
the better monster.
Yeah, it's um yeah, the longer you think about the song and the more you listen to it,
Oh,
it's really uncomfortable.
oh, it's
It's
warming and
really
touching me.
it's yes, it's really something. And that this was played on AM radio and at the
Wow,
skating rink in Kansas where I grew up and this kind of thing. It was yikes. But yeah,
yikes!
but there we go. So but Mac Davis, I mean, what's not to love, right? So we'll forgive Mac Davis on this one. I mean, he
But
becomes
anyway,
becomes a star.
he recorded four gold albums at Fame
Yeah.
with singles like "Texas in My Rearview Mirror." He came from Texas. "Hooked on Music." "Hooked on Music" was covered by
Oh,
a
it's
number of people, right?
oh yeah, yeah.
"Stop and Smell the Roses." Do you know who wrote the music on that?
Oh, I don't know. I used to maybe.
Doc Severinsen
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
of
Yeah.
Johnny
And
Carson fame.
and I think that's why Mac Davis ended up as a guest host on the
It
Tonight
could
Show.
well be.
I mean, one of the reasons.
But that was also a number one on the adult contemporary chart that was in 1974.
I mean, Mac Davis sold a ton of records, and he sold a ton of albums in a genre that where album sales were usually pretty low.
Well,
But people couldn't get enough of Mac Davis, and
yeah.
it's because of fame. It's coming out of there. It's coming out of Muscle Shoals. It's Rick Hall
Stop
is
and
at the
Smell the Roses
controls.
was number nine on the pop chart.
Oh,
One
it's a
Hell of a
huge song.
Woman,
Yeah,
number 11 on the pop chart. Rock and Roll Gave Me the Best Years of My Life, also a top 20 hit on the pop chart.
I know. Yeah, it's really something. Mac Davis, yeah, a force of nature. I mean, it, yeah. I mean, you think about the 70s and people like Mac Davis, people like John Denver, who, suddenly you weren't just hearing them on the radio, but you were seeing him on television. And oh my God, there they are in the movies. What's what's next? Yeah.
But okay, also around this period, right? We're getting into there's a mix in the early 70s,
No,
mix
that's right. Yeah, that's
pop
right.
and country coming out of Muscle Shoals. But one of the hits that came from there was the title cut of Bobby Gentry's album "Fancy" from
Th-
1970. And this is one of Rick Hall's personal two favorite songs
Yes, it
that
is.
he put out there because it's, well, you know the story.
Well, I don't know the story. I mean, you tell the story. I got some Bobby Gentry
Okay.
opinions, but you tell the story.
This song is about a woman who goes from kind of an impoverished background to and is sick of it. And so she becomes essentially um, a woman of the night.
Yeah, it's yeah.
So, it's a little bit spot on, but essentially the story of his mother, right?
It that's one reading. Yes,
And well, I think that's the
that's it.
reason it
I think
was
that's the reason.
meaningful to him.
I think you're absolutely right. I think you're
So
absolutely right. This is, I mean, the relationship between, I mean, he's really burdened by her, really burdened by her memory.
yes,
And as he's, we've already talked about it, never a day went by that he didn't think about her and her leaving and all that. But yeah, so this song, uh, and so Bobby Gentry is also a very, an interesting, if not maybe kind of peculiar figure in this era, right? So she's a couple years removed from Ode to Billy Joe. Um, she is a person who is famously headstrong. One had very specific ideas about how her records were to sound. She had the audacious opinion that she, in fact, should help produce her records, which put her on the outs with a number of other producers and record companies.
it really
But
wasn't done at the time.
it
No,
really was not done at the time. But she was. But Bobby Gentry was also a person who was really fueled by a need to be successful, to fill a kind of void. And famously said, if something doesn't really make any money, then it probably isn't worth doing. It probably isn't some worth pursuing. Isn't really successful. And Bobby Gentry is a person who was climbed to the top and then disappeared. And she has she doesn't even she hasn't been seen in public for decades. She just put it all behind her. She's, I
well,
mean,
mhm.
people have talked about and written about Bobby Gentry at length. She is as interesting a figure coming out of popular music in the 60s and early 70s as there is. And the fact that Rick Hall managed to work successfully with her, and create hits. I mean, that says a lot about him, because that wasn't happening with other producers. That's really something. And plus the whole backstory with his mom. Yikes.
Yeah, okay. And speaking of the backstory, his second favorite song, or not second favorite, one of his two favorite songs
Yeah.
was, well, you can say a little bit about this, Patches.
Oh. Yeah. So Clarence Carter, right? So
Yeah.
guy who had a kind of hit and miss career in the 60s, had spent a lot of time on the Chitlin circuit. But somebody who was a person who, and this was not uncommon in this era, a black performer who was as comfortable in the country genre as he would be in R&B or soul. Um, it, Carter had a background that was not dissimilar, right, to Hall's. There was poverty, there was abandonment, there was betrayal, there was real pain, and he put together this song Patches, um, which it's a song about clothing, but it's a song about love and perseverance, um, and it's as much a song about Rick Hall's background as it's Clarence Carter's. And so
Right.
it's really unusual that, because it doesn't seem like this is be the kind of pairing that would really make sense. But it did make sense, and it did connect, and it this was Clarence Carter's monster hit.
Right. And he really didn't want to record it.
He didn't want to record it. He didn't really see, yeah, he
He
didn't
thought it
see
was a
the
little bit too, mm, this this kid, uh,
Yeah, it
who's singing it is so put down and so looked down upon, and he felt like
yes.
that was not a good optic for a black singer.
And I think that's right. And it's interestingly, right, these early 70s, right? And so this is, yeah, this is an era where there's, Black Power,
Black Power,
and
man, life is
and this
beautiful.
is, yeah, and this is it's kind of tapping into stereotypes on some level, but there is a kind of there's a kind of power to the song and a kind of perseverance, and it's schmaltzy in its own way.
Oh yeah.
Um, okay, but the thing about Hall is that he could hear a hit in a way that other people couldn't, right? So I didn't,
And I think, and
he
he
could just
talked
take,
he talked Carter into it by saying, "Look, I
yeah,
see
that's
this
right.
as my story. I,
Yes,
and I
that's
so
that's
it's
genius, by the way. Yeah,
yeah, and it's
that's my
authentic and it's real. So
it's real, and so you'd be, you wouldn't necessarily doing me a favor, but there are people out there that this would speak to, and okay, and so and it's, I mean, it was a humongous
it
song.
was number one in uh, Billboard, and was it also country number one?
I'm not certain about the country piece of it, but yeah, but it was, it topped the charts, and it became, I mean, it's Carter's signature
Oh,
tune.
it's absolutely, yeah, yeah.
I
There's no
mean,
doubt.
I mean, this is it.
So
Yeah.
this was all going on. This is all post Swampers, um, and it just continues on at
Yeah.
an
Real
amazing
success.
pace.
Yeah, real success.
Um, he had uh, top 20 single with "Fooled Around and Fell in Love" with the Irving Bishop Group in 1975. He was working with Jerry Reed, two number one records from that collaboration. She Got the
She
Gold
got the
Mine, I
gold
Got the
mine, and
Shaft, and The Bird.
oh, geez, yeah.
But that was in 1982, so that's a little bit we're
Oh,
skipping a bit ahead.
yeah, but Jerry Reed. I mean, there's another guy, right? I mean,
Yeah,
Jerry Reed and Mac Davis. I mean,
yes.
these are, next thing you know, there's Jerry Reed. There's Jerry Reed, and driving the truck and Smokey and the Bandit. What in the world? How'd that happen? Yeah,
Uh, well, yeah, okay. But also, T.G. Shepherd
yeah,
benefited immensely from
yeah. I
their
did.
collaboration. Um, his LPs, including Living on the Edge from 1985, had the top 10 singles In Over My Heart and
Hmm.
Don't You,
Yep.
and the top five hit Strong Heart. That was all from Living on the Edge.
Yeah. I
Then
mean, right.
It Still Rains in Memphis, 1986. Uh, um, and One for the Money from 1987. And One for the Money had a top five title cut, One for the Money, and number one single, You're My First Lady. This was all, these were all LPs that he made in Muscle Shoals with
Yeah. Right.
Rick Hall at
So,
the helm.
so we get, okay. So as we get into the 80s, right? So the late 70s, I think, by almost any measure, not a time of great success because of the disco era. That's just, Hall wasn't really into that. But we get into the 80s. The shift to country is nearly complete. Nashville is sending artists his way. Again, it's not really that far, and he becomes a kind of, I don't know how exactly to put it, but there's a kind of, again, a kind of Muscle Shoals stamp to country music as well, right? So that if you're recording with Rick Hall at the Fame with the Fame Gang, there's a sound, and yeah, it really starts to move again.
Yeah, and just to mention it briefly, one of the reasons for the slump in the late '70s was Hall went through quite a serious illness at that time, and was not producing records. That does not mean the Fame Studios was not being used and that there weren't people producing records there, but he wasn't. Um, but otherwise, even in the late 70s, the country music was keeping the
It kept the doors open for
kept
sure.
the
Yeah.
doors open. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And he Fame Fame Studios, the Fame Gang, they worked with people like Joe Tex, Bobby Blue Bland, Eddie Floyd, Candy Staton. Maybe we'll say a little
Yeah.
bit more about her before we're done. Little Milton, Sawyer Brown, Tony Joe White, Elkie Brooks, and the Oak Ridge Boys.
You're
So
covering a lot of ground here.
these
Yeah, but
people
it's
were going in and out of the studio, um, more or less uh, unbroken, even when they weren't putting out the top
I
10 albums.
I think that's yeah, and Dave, I think you really speaking to the fact that while there's a kind of mythic quality to Fame Studios in the 1960s. Um, and with some reason for sure. The the hits never really stopped. Never really stopped. The genres changed a bit and this kind of thing, but people wanted to work with Rick Hall. People wanted to make albums with Rick Hall. They wanted to make out, that never really faded ever, even to the end of his life. People wanted to bring artists to Muscle Shoals. They wanted him to stand in that room. And but yeah, it never ends for him. It really doesn't.
Well, and in a larger sense, for the studios too, even when he stopped producing, people kept coming. They wanted,
Yeah, well,
I
that's
think
right.
they wanted just the vibe of being in the
Well,
studio where that
I
all
think
had
that's
happened, right?
I think you're absolutely right, and it speaks to. I mean, you've seen this in other places, other studios, right? That famously the Sun
Sun
Studios.
Studios, right?
People still want to record there and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to be in that route, to be in those two studios, it's there's a kind of vibe. There's a sense of history. I mean, now, right, we're talking about 20, 30, 40 years deep, and yeah, it's in its own way become a kind of shrine,
Yeah.
a kind of recording mecca, and not the Fame Studios itself. Yeah, no question.
One thing that we need to talk about before we're done talking about Rick Hall as a producer is Shenandoah.
Yeah, arguably okay. He has enormous success with Shenandoah, or Shenandoah has enormous success with him. I'm not certain that these are the most groundbreaking songs or groundbreaking albums, but
But the point
it
is, this
okay.
gets back to
But
his roots a little
this
bit
is it. This is the point. Yeah, yeah.
in the sense that he's working with a, a group, a band that he found locally
This is the point. You're absolutely right.
and and took them to nationwide success, a huge success. I mean, they became really big.
Oh yeah, they became really big. Yeah, and I'm not. Yes, so we'll be listening to Shenandoah's songs in 50 years? Probably not. But speaks to that he could damn near make anyone sound good. And if he had just a modicum of talent, he could, amplify that. And it's not all that different from like it's Arthur Anderson down the street or Arthur Alexander down the street, right? The local
That's just
guys
it. Yeah.
who have a certain kind of drive, right? They connect, and next thing you know, they are the toast of Nashville and beyond.
They had six number one singles. They had
Oh,
a
humongous. Yeah, you're right.
top five single with Mama Knows and She Doesn't Cry Anymore, top 10. It was just See If I Care, top 10. One hit after the other once they got started, essentially. So it was, yeah, it was a big deal.
It was a big deal. Commercially, maybe, I mean, you could argue this is really the almost the zenith for Recall. I mean, in terms of this, just a kind of dominance on the charts. Okay, uh, this is Shenandoah. Okay, a modest of modest interest. Um, culturally, um, but big hits.
So, he created a huge legacy,
I
and
think this is, yeah, this is, I mean, he did create a huge legacy. What's your sense as to how he did he ever really enjoy his in success? I mean, did you think that he ever became comfortable being Rick Hall? It seems to me that he changes a little bit at the end of his life. You know, you have the documentary is made near the end of his
yeah,
life.
yeah.
He does participate in that and seems to enjoy it. Enjoys the screenings. It gives more interviews.
I think he's proud of what he accomplished. I think he was comfortable in his own skin at the end, and
I think so too. I think that's, yeah. You get it. Yes, and I'm. It's almost a relief because because a guy who's just who really had a sense of self-loathing. I think for much of his life, just
and
really.
and was driven to try to overcome that somehow.
I think that that's right. Yeah, just but
And that's
when
the
you
Patches story, by the way, right there. I
oh,
just,
no question.
you
No,
know,
that's exactly it. But when you okay, but when you think about Muscle Shoals, Rick and recording and all that, I mean, Rick Hall is at the center of that. I mean, there's no getting around it, and that is remarkable given where he came from and the kind of obstacles that some of them, some of his, self-inflicted wounds and whatnot, but the kinds of things that he dealt with and kept coming back and coming back. It's it's actually kind of, well, I don't know. Inspirational is maybe a little overstated, but maybe not. And this guy did wonders.
oh yeah, no question. Well, I think it's inspirational.
I mean, it's just
You know, this is
he
somebody that could have just as easily wound up in the gutter. Uh,
by his own admission,
yeah, I
right?
mean,
He's and it's it and even once he tasted some success, there were still challenges, real challenges, and he kept pushing. He just kept at it. It's really something.
well, talking about his legacy, in 1985, he was inducted into the Alabama Music Hall of Fame with his citation referring to him as, quote, father of music, Muscle Shoals music, end quote. And then uh, in 2018,
Yeah,
he died in the
yeah,
early part of 2018. And I think the obituaries have something to say about his impact. The New Yorker said, quote, Muscle Shoals remains remarkable not just for the music made there, but for its unlikeliness as an epicenter of anything.
yes.
That a tiny town in a quiet corner of Alabama became a hotbed of progressive integrated rhythm and blues still feels inexplicable. Whatever Hall conjured there, whatever he dreamt and made real, is essential to any recounting of American ingenuity. It's a testament to a certain kind of hope, end quote.
I think that's really well said. I mean, I think that's really well said, right? I mean, I think it's Rick Hall. Rick Hall made America a better place. I mean, he made Alabama a better place. I mean, certainly, I just think, um, maybe a tough guy to love, but in the end, I mean, the it's just extraordinary. I mean, this is it's you can't make it up.
Yeah. And you know, the funny thing is, talking about tough guy to love, in an interview, they were saying, well, um, you, you seem to be widely feared for um, kind of being choleric, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
difficult, yes,
yes,
arrogant, often.
sure.
And they went down a list of several things that made people just kind of say, "Oh, recall." And he would just admit it. He said, um, I was more often feared than loved. Uh, and the funny thing is, all I ever wanted was to be loved. So,
It's yeah, and but I think for him, I think it all comes together. I think there's a certain closing of the circle near the end of his life. His wife, his family, his son, these kinds of things. I think it really helps. It comes together, and I think that many of the people who he got crossways with, they found a way to sort of build a kind of rapprochement at the end, and
certainly with the Swampers
yeah, I think that's
and
yeah,
Mixos to a certain degree.
yeah, I think so. It's like, here we go. And they did great, and they all did recognize, and they all did great things together. It but the improbability of Muscle Shoals as a recording center is it is astounding.
Yeah, it's hard to overstate.
Yeah. It's just you can't it's and recall it's recall. It really is recall. He's the guy who stays, he's the guy who invests. It's recall. He makes
Absolutely.
Muscle Shoals.
Yeah, yeah. I think
And
that's
to have
absolutely fair.
supplanted, for example, W.C. Handy in that story, right?
Yes.
Father of the blues and all that.
Father of
But
the
he
Blues. Yeah.
all but it's Muscle Shoals is recall. It just plain and simple.
Yeah.
Gosh, unbelievable. Well, where do we go from here?
Well, there's a second part to the Muscle Shoals story, and that is the Swampers and the Muscle Shoals sound. Uh,
Oh yeah.
and that's going to be the second part about this because um, although there wouldn't have been any Swampers without Recall, the Swampers continued to contribute to the Muscle Shoals sound
Yes, they did.
and reputation while they were active. So
Yeah,
talk a little bit about that.
absolutely. Looking forward to it.
So if you enjoyed this video, we hope you did, give us a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, do that right here. And you'll want to be sure to check out the playlist for this video because it's just astronomically good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we also will take a look below here. You'll find a reading list. There's interest in Muscle Shoals continues to grow, including scholarly interest in Muscle Shoals. And we'll include some of the key works there. And also, just as a note here, we're on Blue Sky. We're posting new content on Blue Sky every day. So, well, it's an interesting place. So until next time, we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.